I'm speaking in support of Amendment 1, NC2 and NC3, tabled by Daisy Cooper, MP. These hikes in the employers' national insurance contributions are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They will have real and damaging consequences, and they will strike at the heart of small and medium-sized businesses, the very backbone of our economy. In my constituency in South Cambridgeshire, we have one of the highest densities of small and medium enterprises, principally in the biotech and life sciences sector, which is one of the growth sectors, for our economy. So it's absolutely critical that we get this right. And I've heard from them that they're very, very troubled about this. But more worryingly, Madam Chair, the consequences will extend to our social and healthcare sectors already under immense strain. GP surgeries and care homes across the UK, essential frontline services, essential to supporting the NHS, essential to ensuring the mission that this government has said from moving from treatment to prevention, from hospital to community, are at risk of being severely impacted. How can we expect to tackle the backlog in terms of routine operations? And how can we deal with what is now upcoming with the winter waiting lists at A&E with so much pain and anguish if the very primary care providers who form the foundation of our healthcare system are being undermined by this tax increase? The Lib Dems... I will.
Thank you. I thank the Honourable Member and the Chair for allowing me to speak very briefly. The Honourable Member references primary care. I have heard from 5 different GP surgeries in my constituency writing to me to warn that the national insurance increase will directly undermine patient care at a time when GP practices are already under severe financial strain due to years of neglect. Does she agree that the government's process of addressing national insurance costs via GP contract negotiations that could go on until spring is just too slow, as practices are making staffing decisions right now?
Thank you, and I do agree with my honourable friend's intervention there. This is absolutely critical, and I will come on to the situation with our GPs. The Lib Dems continue to highlight the importance that to fix the NHS we have to fix the social care crisis, and freeing up hospital beds requires fixing the social care sector. According to research, 60% of the UK's care home beds are operated by private companies, on the brink of bankruptcy, being tipped over the edge thanks to these changes and rises in the employers' national insurance contributions. So we just don't understand how this can align with the Chancellor's and the Health Secretary's plans to alleviate pressure on hospitals and ensure effective healthcare delivery. I will give way.
She's hit the nail on the head here, isn't it? Because the Labour government have come in saying they want to deal with this, and they've protected effectively secondary care. The problem is the NI applies to the GPs at the front end and then the care homes at the back end, which means the people who are going to hold the responsibility here are going to be the hospitals, the very acute places we need to keep clear to try and help that backlog move through. And without getting an answer now, we risk having this next 3 months, 4 months of recruitment decisions being held, cutbacks being made, which is going to cripple the NHS on top of the difficulties of an already hard winter. Does she agree?
Yes, I do agree with the Honourable Member, and I'd like to make one specific example from Cambridgeshire, which is the Arthur Rank Hospice, which serves all of Cambridgeshire. And I went and had a tour there and looked at the work that's been done by the dedicated professionals there. And I was informed by senior leadership that these hikes in the national insurance contributions for employers would be the equivalent of £230,000 for payroll costs, additional to the fundraising that they already have to do. This is money they do not have. And we know during the assisted dying, assisted suicide, terminally ill debate how critical palliative care and end-of-life care is. And this is one of those hospices that will be struggling severely to deal with these charges. Also, in terms of what the honourable members have mentioned about the GP crisis, according to the BMA, since 2015, 1,387 GP practices have closed, and the NHS has lost the equivalent of 1,333 full-time, fully qualified GPs. So each GP is responsible for an average of 2,294 patients. and approximately 3 million people have already been directly affected in the last decade by shrinking GP numbers. So at a time when we desperately need more GPs, we're introducing a tax that risks driving even more practices out of business. And it's not just me saying this. I'm sure as honourable members from across all of the House, we've heard from GPs in our constituencies. In my constituency of South Cambridgeshire, that's Harston, Comberton, Queen Ediths, Everston and Melbourne. And I've been speaking to one in particular, Dr. G of Harston Surgery, who's told me that his practice with 7,600 patients faces a £20,000 bill from April just to maintain its current services, just to stand still.
On that point,
I'll give way.
I thank the Honourable Lady. She's making a tremendously informed speech and demonstrating a level of understanding of primary and the care sector that we could only dream of from this government opposite. Is it her concern that many of the charities and voluntary sector organisations and GP surgeries are already operating at the very thinnest margins of financial sustainability, and this will torpedo the very organisations that protect their communities from absolute chaos? Secondary care can't do it alone. It's upheld by primary care in the care sector. Is she as concerned as many other honourable members are that this is going to cause absolute chaos?
Yeah.
Thank you. I agree with the honourable member because I know that the government is in conversation with the GPs. But they are writing to us saying that they are seriously concerned. So the GP in Harston at the surgery has said, to put it simply, the GPs cannot, like others, raise prices or operate at a loss. And they have not had the clarification or confirmation from the government how the funding that is given to others within the public sector will be available for GPs, just as they're coming up to now their annual spending reviews and budgeting. They're bringing an uncertainty to them at a critical time, and they don't feel that they're getting the right messaging or any kind of clarity that will save people's jobs. I'll give way.
And I thank the member for giving way because she has been generous with her time. But will she also realise, and I suppose the House realise, that this just isn't an indication of a problem in England, Scotland and Wales, a significant problem in Northern Ireland, where we've already seen a high number of GP practices actually returning their contracts. And at this point in time, where the solution was meant to be to move to multidisciplinary teams, the increase in national insurance contribution for them as employers is putting that additional stress on their contracts, the amount of money that they're actually receiving from central government, but also the fact that in Northern Ireland 75% of our domiciliary care and home care providers are provided by private suppliers, and that is additional cost that's going to be added to them as well.
I do agree with the honourable member, and in fact in my constituency of South Cambridgeshire we had the tragic situation of 4 much loved, much respected family doctors handing back their contracts. It has happened at East Barnwell Surgery, to the distress of both those GPs and of all of their patients. This is happening because of the contract, and that is actually due to also failures with the previous Conservative government to enable those GPs to understand what it means within the GP formula, the funding formula, what it means to understand deprivation as well as age demographics in that contract. On top of this now, the hikes in the National Insurance employers' contributions is just driven them over the edge. I will give way one more time.
We had this great debate on assisted dying, and every single person who spoke said it was absolutely essential that we improve palliative care. And I just wonder whether we could form a consensus in this House. There's one compromise that the government could make, and that is to take hospices out of this tax. It would be so popular, achieve so much, and ensure that our elderly and frail people were properly looked after. So that's one compromise I give to the government.
I'd like to thank my honourable member. As I mentioned, Arthur Rank Hospice, which is in my constituency, which is one of those that should definitely have that compromise. But I think it's not only that. We have to look at all that primary care sector, both the GPs and the independent care homes, because this is what's going to winter-proof our NHS as well. So we can't fix the NHS without fixing social care too. So, Madam Chair, These national insurance increases are not just unwise, they're unthinkable. We're in a time of healthcare crisis. People are already struggling to secure appointments. And despite the government's assurances, these tax rises will inevitably affect ordinary people. They will particularly hurt those desperately trying to access their local GP and crucial appointments. We cannot and will not fix the NHS by driving its primary care providers into the ground. I urge the government to engage with our GPs and to reconsider and provide immediate reassurance to GP practices, hospices and care homes that will protect them from these changes. Without these frontline services, the NHS stands no chance of coming off life support. Thank you.